Dune. I've always liked that quote because it talks about, what bravery is. I mean, there's another great quote on that, when I think it was it Brandon Stark had said to his father, Ned, how can you be brave when you're afraid? And he goes, when you're afraid is the only time you can really be brave. So those quotes always live in my head rent free. What about you, Southern? What quote lives in your head rent free?
You have a baby in a bar.
Okay, well, what movie is that from?
I don't listen. I've told you to watch it a million times. It's Sweet Home Alabama.
You have. I apologize.
And I don't know why it always lives in my head, but it does. Anytime we're talking about movie quotes, it automatically comes to my head.
So you got to work on the pause in between that. You have a baby in a bar. Right?
I've done it for him right before, and the man still won't go watch the movie.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I need to put that one on. I'll try and throw that one on tonight. I'm currently rifling through Justified again, though. All right, Dr. A, what about you? What movie quote lives rent free in your head?
All right, I have two.
Go ahead.
One is nobody puts baby in the corner.
I hate that movie. Back. I hate that movie. Now I love that I'm back or I'll be back. That's a great quote. But Dirty Dancing. What is it? Why do all women love that movie? That is the gayest movie, to quote Seinfeld. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's so stupid. God, I hate that movie. It's just, it's retarded. All right, Tap, what about you?
Have you seen his bottom in jeans, Larry? That's why.
No, I don't look at guys' bottoms in jeans, but I get it. All right. Okay. Go ahead, Tap.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Gladiator. People should know when they're conquered. That's one I think of often over the last couple of years.
Yeah, brother. Amen.
And then, since you mentioned Justified, I won't say the full bit, but I'm sure you know it. There's a scene where Boyd's talking about going to Mexico, and Raylan says, "I don't think you'd like Mexico," and Boyd goes, "Why not?" And if you've seen it, you know.
I do know. Outstanding. All right, everybody. It is past high noon. I think we're at high noon +1. This is The Reckoning, 13 April 2026, 2 days before we have to give Uncle Sam our right arm. Show number 321 and 1 hour of unfiltered political truth starts now. Now, there are some days where I know exactly what I want to say in the rant, but this isn't one of them. There are many things going through my mind right now, and we're going to talk about a few of those topics later. However, in the interest of putting something down, I want to talk a little bit today about judges. Unfortunately, our system relies on judges to arbitrate decisions between citizens based on a set of rules we all agree to live by. The problem is those judges must be people that are, one, governed by those rules, and two, capable of not inserting their own politics into the situation. Now, I don't believe that man is ever really truly capable of rendering an impartial decision, but modern judges have gone so far from impartial to partial that we have to question the system in its entirety. Now, judicial accountability should have been very high on the list of things that we needed to accomplish during the Trump administration. Yet not one federal judge that threw innocent people into prison has even been impeached. Not one federal judge that allowed them to spy on the Speaker of the House of Representatives or senators in the United States Senate has been impeached. Why is that? I remember a scene from a movie. The movie's called The Big Short, where the hedge fund manager of Scion Capital, Dr. Michael Burry, sent an email out to his clients saying that because the housing market was not working rationally, he had come to the conclusion that the entire system is fraudulent. And he was right. It was fraudulent. How many people went to jail for that? One. They almost collapsed the entire economy of the world, and not one person was held accountable. Again, I am pretty convinced that the golden rule is the only thing that manages things, and it's not the good one. It's the bad one. He who has the gold makes the rules. I believe our entire judicial system is on the verge of being completely fraudulent. Yeah, they get some cases right, But by and large, we see killers walk free while grandmas that are praying the rosary outside of abortion clinics are put in prison. This is not a legitimate system of justice anymore. So what can be done about it? The second branch, the legislative branch, could do something about it, but it is doing nothing to contain the third branch. So we are at a complete loss unless we rewrite the rules we're governed under. Judicial tyranny is the same thing as any other form of tyranny. I am an American and I am loyal to the Constitution, not to an unelected random district judge that thinks he can overrule the elected president of the United States or its House of Representatives and Senate. We need to start ignoring these tin-pot dictators completely. In our state, we watched the great Texas Supreme Court, with the exception of one justice, one honorable man, Justice Devine, send a young man to California to be castrated because his mother thought he was a girl. Why the Texas legislature did not immediately impeach all 8 of those judges that allowed this is beyond me. So as we move into the election cycle in Virginia, California, Texas, probably Florida as well. All right, I mentioned those because of the people on the stage. When you are electing judges, as we do in Texas, or legislators, we need to be asking this question of them. Will they act to rein in tyrannical federal and state judiciary? And will they start making examples of the black robe criminals sitting on the bench? And yes, I am referring to the entirety of the DC Circuit. Every one of those judges should be sitting in isolation, awaiting trial for crimes against the American people and the Constitution. All right, enough ranting. Let's talk war. War. You know, I'm often torn. I've been a professional warrior my entire life. You know, there's a lot of quotes about mankind succeeding and growing through war. But then I'm reminded that some of the greatest technological advances we had were when we were in peace and competing to get to space. War is an evil, evil thing, and yet it is constant and always with us. There is a great quote that I used to have on my Facebook page. It said, "Long before man, war existed, the ultimate trade awaiting the ultimate practitioner." A lot of truth to that. Now, today, as of, I guess, about 2 hours ago, CENTCOM was supposed to begin a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this blockade will only impact Iranian-related vessels. Now, why I chuckle about that is the Iranians are saying they're blockading anything except Iranian-related vessels. So if it is, I guess, basically, the entire Strait of Hormuz is closed. Now, President Trump says the U.S. military will finish up the little that is left of Iran. Now, again, getting back to what Southern said about not trusting anything, I saw an organizational chart of the Iranian government. And on that org chart, almost everything had been decimated, but they left alone the senior military council. Now, that's either we just couldn't find them, doubtful, or we're doing that on purpose, likely. Now, I think what you're seeing is targeted assassinations of about 3 to 4/5 of the Iranian government, leaving the military alone in the hopes that the military will stage a coup. So I think the purpose of this embargo on Iranian oil is to actually get them to start a coup. I think the purpose of what we asked for in the negotiations that occurred in Pakistan is to engineer a coup. So what did we ask for? Well, we said that we want them to end all uranium enrichment. All right, we want them to dismantle all their major nuclear enrichment facilities. I would think we had already done that with F-35s and B-2s, but okay. We want them to give us their highly enriched uranium they have already. We want a broader peace, security, and de-escalation framework that includes Iran's regional allies, meaning Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. And we want them to reopen the Straits of Hormuz, charging no tolls for passage. Again, there was a time in our country where we paid tribute to radical Muslims. And that was during the early Adams administration because we had no Navy. We built up our Navy, and then Jefferson used that Navy from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli to stop the Muslim and his demands on American shipping. Shortly thereafter, we did it again. We sent our frigates back, and we destroyed the entire system of piracy that had existed for many, many decades. That's the history of the United States Navy. It was started to deal with Muslim piracy and Muslims trying to block our freedom of navigation. Look it up. I'm telling you the God's honest truth. Now, what's the result of this, though? All right, and the result for you and I, what are we going to see? We're going to see higher prices at the pump. If you're not already, I don't know where you're living. I mean, gas was about $1.62 a gallon before all this nonsense started, and just this morning I paid $3.69 a gallon. So again, I'm not liking it at all. Brent crude futures are up 7.5% to around $102 a barrel. S&P 500 futures traded down about 1%. Now, many people think, and I'm not saying this isn't true, I just told you what I think, that the entire purpose of this delay, the entire purpose of the air campaign is to engineer regime change through targeted assassinations of most of the Iranian government, as well as a set of demands that one part of the government could live with, but the other could not. But there are a lot of people that think this delay was needed by the American military so that we could rearm for a second part of the campaign. If you look at flight logs, over the weekend, you saw significant U.S. transport movement from the United States to the Middle East. And I do mean significant, like at levels not seen since Desert Storm 1. All right, you're also seeing something that's really good. You're seeing more vessels coming into the Gulf of America, specifically to the oil refineries in Texas, to get more oil and natural gas. So, again, I'm not saying that's not what the plan is. I'm saying I'm beginning to see that there is an overall plan that is on regime change. All right, so the old saying, si vis pacem para bellum, meaning if you want peace, be prepared for war, I think is definitely true. And I think what you're seeing is President Trump rearming over there so that we can continue our aerial campaign to target the elements of the regime we don't like, as well as, and again, you know, yeah, you can use ships to blockade ships, and we've got, I believe, 3 carrier battle groups. I think there's 1 in the Med and 2 in the Indian Ocean. But, you know, it's probably easier for the Air Force to interdict that strait than the Navy. Don't know that. I mean, obviously, the Navy has its own air wing, so it can do all of that as well. Now, the interesting part to me about the blockade and President Trump's Truth Social post about it was when he said, I have instructed our Navy to seek and interdict every vessel in international waters that paid a toll to Iran. We know that 2 vessels paid and several others were allowed through based off diplomatic communications, which might have included payment. The total estimate is 26 ships. Now, I queried Grok and said, you know, how many of those were British or French owned? The British come away scot-free, but the French, it's always the French, had a container ship, the Malta-flagged Creeby, that transited the Strait of Hormuz on April the 2nd or the 3rd. This was the widely reported first Western European linked vessel to cross since the conflict began. Now, most of the 26 tankers vessels that were allowed through were headed to Pakistan, China, or India. So this blockade is a good thing. And I quite enjoy waiting for the outrage that's coming when we seize the ship, the Caribbean, which is currently due in Cape Town on April the 20th. I don't think it's going to make it there. As a matter of fact, I would put significant amount of change on that it's not going to make it there. Now, I meant to have a graphic up. It's in my bookmarks, but I don't have it right now on all the vessels that are going to the Gulf of America. So My question for you guys that are on the panel here, and Dr. A, I'll bring you back up in just a second, is what do you think is going to happen? Will we interdict these ships? What are we going to do with them? All right, so Dr. A, adding you back as co-host. Southern, what do you think is going to happen in this situation?
I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's planning. I don't know where these ships would be going unless we're just taking them and using them for our own use.
All right. What about you, Tap? And then we'll come to you, Dr. A.
I don't believe we're actually going to follow through on it. I think this will likely be something that we back down from in less than a week. I think that we might do 1 or 3 of them just for the optics of it. And I'd be surprised if we go after the French. I think it'd be easier to go after one of the weaker nations that are out there, just to kind of prove that we're willing to do it. But overall, I've been frustrated. And while I'm optimistic about 2 THAAD batteries being brought back online in the Middle East over the course of this break, I ultimately view this as sort of squirrely, and without the situational awareness that the president has, I am not inspired, and I do not have confidence in what's currently occurring.
Yeah, I got to tell you, there's some things he's doing that I don't know if he's doing it to just, his usual, I'm going to call it trolling the left, like the picture of him being Jesus and healing the sick man. Or is there's just something wrong? I don't know. I'm anxiously awaiting his choice for Attorney General, because I think, I'm using that kind of as a bellwether on where President Trump's noggin really is right now. All right, Dr. A, what are your thoughts? What do you think we're going to do with these people? Dr. A. All right, folks, she's apparently having mic issues again. Now, here's the lesson. She told me that she has an Android phone. All right, again, folks, you get what you pay for. There's a reason Android is cheaper than iPhones.
You're
That's all I'm
so
saying.
mean.
Yes, I am mean.
Well, my campaign is still broke. That's all I could afford.
I understand that. So
I apologize. I was trying desperately to get on the stage, and you were bringing me up right when you asked the question. So I have no idea.
The question is, what do you think is going to happen now? Trump, he's announced the blockade. Do you think we're really going to enforce a hard blockade, or do you think, as Tap does, that he's not really going to follow through on it?
It's a good question. I think he's trying to force the global hand. He's trying to get the international partners involved again. I think they're going to drag their sorry butts back and get involved. I don't think we're going to have to.
All right, you faded out, going to have to, and then I lost you. Going to have to enforce the blockade is, I'm going to guess. Dr. A, I don't know what's going on with that account, but if you got an iPhone, you might consider switching to it. I'm just saying.
Trying again. So, but this account isn't on the iPhone. I'm so frustrated. Anyway, I think they're going to, he's going to try to force the internationals to get back involved, the international quote unquote partners. I don't think they're partners anymore. But I think they're going to be forced to get back involved. I think the blockade may last a few days at the most. And I think people are going to step up.
I'm torn. I was tempted to go back, except I'll be honest with you, the radio people that I listen to, I hate it when they quote themselves and say, oh, I was right. And I've done that a few times, but a blockade is a lesser form of warfare. And I thought that he would actually use this before the kinetic operation. And the only reason to me the kinetic air campaign makes sense is because of the ability to actually achieve regime change. And I think that's what he's trying to do with the air campaign, as well as to hit, additional targets, reduce their military capability. There are a whole lot of things we can do with just an air campaign. But I will tell you, I don't think the American public has any appetite at all for an actual boots on the ground situation in Iran. And I honestly think that the Republicans are going to get clocked in the midterms. At least that's my opinion. And don't get me wrong, guys, I'm hoping I'm wrong. Now, I'll be honest with you. I will not lift a finger to help the guy that I ran against because he is a Democrat in Republican clothing, or a Dirk. But I will go out of my way to help the Attorney General become our next senator, and I will work my tail off for other candidates up and down the slate But, you will not see me check the box for the guy that ran against me based off of his deficiencies in character, his lack of morality, as well as just him being an overall scumbag. And I don't mean to insult bags of scum by comparing them to him. Anyway, I digress. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. So, forgive me, my mouse is being twitchy, almost like it's an Android mouse. All right, so the religion of peace at it again. Here we go, yay! Now, English freedom fighter Tommy Robinson on Friday posted an article on X stating that the Middle East Media Research Institute has now said that ISIS wants him dead, and it is calling upon Muslims to take measures that ensures he ends up that way quickly. The Islamic State Pakistan province issued the call in the inaugural address issue of its glossy, slickly produced magazine, which is called, appropriately enough, Invade. So let me get this straight. ISIS has a magazine called Invade, and they're the religion of peace, according to President George W. Bush. What a joke. Now, they called on Tommy Robinson to be murdered, all right, and it is the beginning of a major series, sure to be a hit, called Terrorize Them, arguing that all non-Muslim nations can be terrorized by a single mujahid, and gives the example of a lone mujahid from Jerusalem who silently slaughtered a couple in their apartment. Oh boy, silently slaughtering a couple is the example that we set before them. Terrorize them? To quote the great one, there they go again. All right, and yet they try and say that we misunderstand Islam. All right, again, I'm going to go through this and give you a few other examples. The Quran commands Muslims to strike terror in the enemies of Allah and your enemies. Surah 860. It depicts Allah boasting about how he terrorized the unbelievers. And this is their God, not their pedophile prophet Muhammad, may war be upon him. Their God, this is Allah, their God, saying, when your Lord inspired the angels, I'm with you. So make those who believe stand firm. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve. Then strike the necks and strike their fingertips. Surah 8:12. Not a single mosque in the United States, not one, teaches against the idea that someone should be killed for insulting Muhammad. Why don't they? Because it's not an extremist idea. It is mainstream Islam. So let's cover a couple of other traditional stories. All right. Now, again, for those of you that don't know, they have their bogus Bible, the Quran, and then they have what's called the Hadith, which is a series of traditions. Now, in it, there are various friends of Muhammad or followers of Muhammad that write a whole bunch of things as examples that they are supposed to live by. Now, there was a critic of Muhammad, may war be upon him, Ka'b bin al-Ashraf, who had mocked Muhammad in verse. Muhammad asked his followers, who is willing to kill Ka'b bin al-Ashraf, who has hurt Allah and his apostles? One of the Muslims, Muhammad, they're all named that, answered, O Allah's apostle, would you like that I kill him? When Muhammad said that he would, Muhammad bin Maslama said, then allow me to lie to deceive Ka'b. Muhammad responded, you may lie. Muhammad bin Maslama duly lied to Ka'b, luring him into a trap and murdering him. That's Sahih Bukhari, Volume 5, Book 59, number 369. Abu Afaq, a centenarian poet, so 100 years old, who had mocked Muhammad, was killed in his sleep in response to Muhammad. This question, who will avenge me on this scoundrel? All right. Similarly, on another occasion, the Prophet Muhammad, may war be upon him, said, who will rid me of the daughter of Marwan, who was a poet who had ridiculed him? One of his followers, Umar ibn Adi, went to her house that night where he found her sleeping next to her children, and he murdered her and his children. And so what did Muhammad say when he had slaughtered an innocent child? You have done a great service to Allah and his messenger. Folks, why do we have to continue to say this? Every Muslim is capable of this violence if they truly believe in their false God. We need a complete and total ban immediately on any and all immigration of anyone that is a believer in this false prophet Muhammad. The burqa and any of its derivatives, niqab, hijab, chador, I don't care what you call it, all of it banned. Halal meat banned, period. We need to also take over every single terrorist indoctrination center, aka mosques, and ban them or convert them to Christian churches. And to do that, we have to strip Islam of its claim of being a religion by designating it for what it is, a political system designed to subjugate and terrorize mankind. All right, let me put it this way. Just because some illiterate pedophile wrote a system of laws and claimed it was God-inspired does not mean that we have to honor it. David Koresh come to mind. What about the crackpot in Guyana that killed a bunch of people? History is littered with false people claiming that they are inspired by God. There is only one path to God, and his name is Jesus Christ. Everything else is false. Now, a crackpot that slept with a 9-year-old should not be taken seriously. Seize their mosque, deport their leaders. I believe it was Ann, I can't think of her name, famous conservative, Ann Colbert? No, not, I can't think of her name, but she said after 9/11, bomb their cities, kill their leaders, and forcibly convert them to Christianity. I'm kind of getting to that point. I'm getting real tired of them issuing death threats. Anybody associated with that magazine, you know, there should be an American missile on its way to the publisher right now. There should be American agents targeting its writers and killing them immediately. Give no quarter to the Muslim. Raise the black flag over their countries. And for those of you in military history, that means kill all of their soldiers. I've had enough. I'm just tired of it. All right. Again, when is the West going to wake up to this threat? Oh, well, we have to honor American traditions, the First Amendment. They're not a legit religion. Again, the Nazis had a religion. Their religion said that the Aryans were supposed to take over the world. Did we give them First Amendment protections during World War II and allow them to establish SS recruiting centers here in New York City and in Texas? No, we didn't. And that is exactly what we have going on in the precursor to World War III. There is a simple choice, okay, and that is not to allow them to continue to flourish. Stop them in their tracks right now before it's too late. But we won't do that as much as I want it to be done. Yes, and culture. Thank you, Texas Elizabeth. She actually said that right after 9/11. I remember thinking, smart woman. All right. So that's all I want to say about that. Southern, I know you disagree with me, probably. You know, you're a peaceful, God-fearing woman, and I admire you from that. I've been too long a warrior to let them live in peace anymore. Again, I don't let fire ants exist in my yard for fear that I or my wife will step in their nest. And that is exactly what they are here in Texas, fire ants. So, Southern, do you want to comment? I do want you to hear your comments because I love your contrarian input.
Well, I'm all for. So I'm all for redesignating them no longer as a religious organization and getting rid of the extremists. Like, I have no problem with this, but until we can get the federal government to do that, there's too many legalities involved, and that's where I stand on all that.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I did say, and again, that's one of the first things that's in the Denton County Republican Party priorities is to designate Islam as a political system and to strip it of designation as a religion. Why? Because, Southern, you're absolutely right. I want to preserve the Constitution while at the same time defending the Constitution. So, again, you know, I've talked about it before. I didn't win the election, so I got involved in the party politics behind it, and I put things that were important to me into the party's priorities. At least I'm trying. Okay, again, I still believe enough in the system to try and do that. So, Dr. A, you're in lovely, tolerant California. Where do you stand on this issue? Would you strip them of their First Amendment protections?
So when you say First Amendment protections, well, First Amendment does not include threatening others. So if their primary premise is to hate, attack, and attempt to kill infidels at every choice, that's a problem. And I also don't believe in a religion that its primary premise is to attack, kill, and hate anyone who doesn't have the exact same religion. That's not freedom either. So if and when they become American citizens and swear to live by our Constitution, not Sharia law, and they agree to abide by it, then they have all freedoms endowed within our Constitution to citizens. Until then,
Well, again, I would argue that you cannot bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution and be a practicing Muslim. So again, that is a debate that's going to go on until they sting us again. Again, I've said this before, Americans never react until we get punched in the mouth. Speaking of getting punched in the mouth, somebody at least is thinking inside the Trump administration and trying to avoid the punch in the mouth that's coming. All right. And what I mean by that is apparently preemptive pardons are all the talk inside of the Trump administration right now. And he being President Trump, has reportedly promised to pardon virtually his entire White House staff before leaving office. And the radius keeps growing. It started as a quip saying that anybody within the 10 feet of the Oval Office, and now it's ballooned to apparently, I'll pardon everyone who has come within 200 feet of the Oval, according to President Trump. And he said that in a room full of aides in a recent meeting, drawing laughs. Now, the report claims that staffers raised the possibility of congressional investigations or prosecutions into policy decisions, and they tend to hear about whether preemptive pardons are on the table. Now, again, let's just take this right off the perspective maybe side. They're definitely, absolutely, without question, going to come after every single member of the Trump administration. And if you think the Democrats won't do that, you just haven't been living in the modern world. So let's talk back to the power of the pardon. The Constitution basically gives the president pretty much an unconditional sweeping power to pardon people. Now, President Trump this term has wielded clemency far differently than any other president. Don't really believe that. Dispensing some 1,600 grants to date. Having been a recipient of one of those, I certainly appreciate it. Now, many pardons, they're trying to make him look bad, have gone to allies or donors or those who'd hired them, coming after a social pull-aside or a round of golf. I don't believe that. You know, there are injustices that need to be righted. And if you can get some time with the president to right them, I would almost give my right arm for just 15 minutes with him to legitimately sit down and talk to him about the need for compensation for people whose lives were destroyed by the political persecution they endured under the Biden regime. Now, again, there's a lot of criticism about this, but let's go back in time, maybe just a year, or let's say about a year and a half. All right. The Democrats, all right, Joe Biden specifically, issued sweeping preemptive pardons for top officials and family members at the end of his term, including his family, Dr. Fauci, the J6 Unselect Committee, all right, citing the possibility of DOJ scrutiny under Trump. I mean, I don't understand why this is even a discussion. He absolutely needs to pardon them. I would go so far as to put out an application process for any conservative American to apply for a pardon and just have their voting record in. And if they're voting Republican, they need to be pardoned, because we've got to do something, because they're going to come after all of us. Oh, they would never do that. They've said they're going to do that. Let me quote Hakeem Jeffries. All right. A reminder to all members of the Trump administration, the incitement and engagement in state violence against the American people is a serious crime. Now, they include in American people the illegals they allowed in. So he promised to prosecute ICE agents as well. And he says Donald Trump will leave office long before your 5-year statute of limitations expires. Why would you be talking about a statute of limitations unless you are going to actively prosecute people? Now, none of this is in a vacuum. Apparently, President Trump weighed pardoning White House officials after January 6, 2021, but decided against it. And he later told advisors that he regretted that decision. Democrats viciously went after Trump allies, the people that protested for President Trump, and even President Trump himself. I am reminded that our president is a convicted felon. Unreal. All right. Now, the White House, for its part right now, is still making as if this is a joke. And it really shouldn't be. Carolyn Levitt said, and I quote, the Wall Street Journal should learn to take a joke. However, the president's pardon power is absolute. So I'm just going to say this, and then we'll go to hands. All right. If he does not preemptively pardon every conservative American that worked for him, and honestly, outside of that, anybody that cooperated with ICE, okay, they are going to come after us and they are going to throw you in jail. And the FBI, which is nothing but the tool of the Democratic Party, and the DC Circuit, where you will be tried, cannot wait to get their hands on you so they can do to you what they did to January 6ers. Again, that's the whole crux of the problem. This cannot be America anymore if you're targeting and prosecuting and persecuting your political enemies. And that is exactly what they started, that they protected themselves from with the Biden auto pen pardons. And now President Trump needs to take their example and use it, or we are all in trouble. Southern, your thoughts?
Oh, wait. Come back to me. Hold on.
Okay. All right. Dr. A?
Yeah, we had the example laid out before us. It was past, present, and future, as if there was a magic wand for pardons. So let's go. And I agree with you. Open up a process, have an online form that people can fill. Let every conservative citizen that wants one, but absolutely everybody in his administration, anybody working for border control, ICE, etc., all are going to need them. Yes.
Absolutely. And again, anybody that has worked to do this, I watched over the weekend, the city of Houston try and impede ICE. Again, I don't understand why we're not prosecuting these people. All right, go ahead, Tap.
I need a cigarette for this one. This one's not going to be fun to make the
I know.
points. All right. First, on the first part, America first, Christian only. And that does not include Mormons or Scientology. Second part, I'm not for the pardons. If you have to do pardons for those within 200 feet of your Oval Office, it implies that you failed to drain the swamp. It implies that you failed to fix the two-tier justice system. And it's ultimately showing me that just like the Democrats will not prosecute their own, that Republicans will set themselves up to not prosecute their own, while it's everyday Americans, and Larry, you know this especially, unfortunately, will be penalized, because it's not a matter of if you broke the law. It's a matter of when they decide to take all the laws that are in existence and through their database that we know they have, say, oh, yeah, here's all the crimes you committed, and hold you accountable in their own way. So it is a two, if not more, tier justice system. And I'm ultimately disappointed that they have this mindset, because it ultimately communicates to me that, again, the swamp has not been drained, and we are still victims of this tiered justice system that is not acting in our interest, and it is largely politicized.
Okay.
Feel free to hate on me in the comments.
No. Absolutely, I'm not going to hate on you. Again, I understand what you're saying, But I mean, at this point, we know they're not going to drain the swamp. I mean, let's okay. I haven't really talked about this, but President Trump over the weekend endorsed Lady Lindsey Graham. I mean, he is endorsing a senator that called on January 6ers to be shot. He is endorsing a senator that stood against him, a senator that impedes vital legislation. You know, we're looking at John Thune not allowing President Trump to do recess appointments. Okay, you saw Elon Musk post last week where he alternated red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, and the deficit does nothing but go up. Guys, I got to be honest with you. I really think the uniparty that everyone talks about, you know, it is in existence, and there's no debating or disputing it. It's in charge, and we can't seem to break through the bubble. We have the presidency, and we can't get President Trump to break it. We cannot break the power of the swamp. I don't know what to say. I mean, Tap, you're not wrong. But if he doesn't pardon people, then he is throwing people's lives to the wolves. And the wolves are there. And the sheepdogs are not doing their job anymore. They have become wolves themselves. I don't know what to say about this. Tap, I wish you were right. I wish there was not a need for pardons. But if they don't do it, we're going to see conservative leaders in gulags. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. And then I would hope that us as Republicans, that all citizens would if they're going to continue to operate that, and we're going to acknowledge that with things that are working against the president, that it's not possible to fix the system, then yes, either no pardon should be given or a pardon should be given to every American. And then, if nothing else, at the end of the day, I hope this obviously pedophiles, murderers, all that excluded. But at the end of the day, we need to continue to have the conversation about the excesses that are made by district attorneys, by prosecutors, etc., and the stupid laws we have on books, and how many people are in jail that never should have been there due to these stupid laws. And we need to continue to pursue at a local, state, and federal level less laws that punish people for dumb things, because if we can't have a consistent justice system, then I lose faith in it.
And I agree with you, Tap, and that's what I was trying to say with my comments on judges earlier. You know, if I'm to the point where I really truly believe that an AI judge would be better than a human judge. And what does that say? All right, we are going to change topics now, but I want to hit back to something somebody said. There are apparently 121 empty oil tankers headed to the Gulf of America. That is good news for Texas oil and gas business. I'm very happy to hear that. And it's good news for the world. It's good news for the United States. I saw something where somebody said there's no way we can get out of the debt. And I was thinking to myself, if I seized all oil fields, you know, like maybe starting with Venezuela and then maybe making a deal with Iran where they paid a tax to the United States, and then maybe Saudi Arabia where they pay a tax to the United States, bet you I could figure out a way out of that deficit if we control all the oil. Just saying. All right. Before we get to Dr. A's topic, I want to talk a little bit about Eric Swalwell and yours truly. Now, I've had a hatred of this guy for a long time for many, many reasons. All right. One, he's a Chinese spy, or he collaborated with a Chinese spy. But my hatred specifically comes down to his actions during the second Trump impeachment, where he cited me by name, saying, imagine if Larry Brock had gotten a hold of Vice President Pence on January the 6th. He said that. All right. So now, again, I don't have to tell you that Democrats are stupid. We all know that. I mean, literally, I think it's mental illness at this point to be a Democrat. But I've often wondered and wished I could have rebutted at the time and said, how can I tell you to respect the man's chair and yet want to hurt the man? That's all I'm saying. Again, I am so sick of people like Swalwell. So seeing this over the weekend, got to admit, kind of enjoyed it. All right. So Dr. A, could you guide us through the morass or the mess that is California politics and talk about Eric Swalwell?
Well, obviously we had third separation, relations, even knew each other because Eric Swalwell has been my
he's been
congressional representative for the 13 years he's been there. And I never voted for him. So I'll just make sure to say that. Yes, he's been my congressional representative. So nice typo here. I wanted to start out kind of talking about general state of politics in California and then sweep into, what happened over the weekend with him. So we just wrapped up our 2026 California GOP convention, and I was in attendance. I was asked to be there for a number of different reasons with my running, and it was an interesting experience. I'll say that. It was in San Diego. There were definitely some poppy and fiery situations that went on. Some of you may know the Fox News personality Steve Hilton has been challenging Sheriff Chad Bianco for governor, for the Republican seat for governor. And again, we don't have a Republican seat per se. We have open primaries where every candidate, regardless of party, ends up on one ballot, and the voters, regardless of party, all go to that slate. It's currently 26 candidates, I believe, for governor, and you pick one. The top two move on. And so even though everything that's happening with Swalwell, he still will be on that primary ballot. There's no taking the names off at this stage of the game. So let's keep going. So the two Republicans have been leading in the California state polls, and it's been absolutely driving the Democrats nutty, which is, I think, why they're making some of the moves that they're making to try to find somebody who they can get past. Because, guys, none of us even believe in polls anymore. But the two conservatives have still been leading the Democrats in the polls. So they're getting a little bit desperate. Last week, to my chagrin, Hilton obtained Trump's endorsement. I was super frustrated why he would have done that before the state GOP convention, and the attempt to find out what the delegates of California actually want was a little frustrating. I think it did influence the delegate vote, although there wasn't enough to get him over the top. He's fluff and buff as far as I'm concerned. He moved to the United States 12 years ago. He's been a citizen for 4.5 years. He gave up his British citizenship last year when he filed for election to run for governor of California. And I'm not racist in any way, shape, or form. I love immigrants, but I don't believe in allowing a new immigrant, someone who's been a citizen for 4.5 years, to become the governor of the largest state in the United States of America. I'm not for that. I wouldn't be for it for any of the states in America, let alone the largest one. And California is very big, very diverse, and I don't care. Living here a decade, you can't possibly know it. I've been here for 5 generations, and I would not claim to understand all of California, but I certainly know more of it than someone who's been here for 12 years. So that being said, when the delegates voted, the vote was something like 28% for Hilton, 28% for Bianco, and 23% for I'm throwing off the percentages, whatever. Neither of them got up to the 58%. It was I want to say it was 48-43 is where we're going with that. My numbers are going off. So neither of them got a 2/3 vote or a majority. They had to have a 60% in order to get the endorsement of the party. So neither of them will get the endorsement of the party. But Chad Bianco had the majority. It was definitely more than Steve Hilton. So there was also a lot of fire at the convention over a candidate called David Serpa. I don't know if anybody even know him outside of California, but he's running for state treasurer. He is very close to and supported by many social media influencers. They came in mass to stand up for him, and he was heavily criticized by some for that point. He's also a Marine Corps combat veteran and is a lot of angry yelling at the people. And well, I experienced it at the event, and the chair from my county committee said she felt like she was literally being screamed at personally, and took it very very poorly. So you got to consider your people that you're speaking to or at, and that wasn't good. So Republicans running for state treasurer, seeking the state GOP's endorsement. The initial vote was 58% to the other. It's Jennifer Hawks. And so a call was made from the floor to administer a second vote. That brought a lot of screams and yells, but the chair agreed at 58 or 59%. We would do a revote to try to get someone over the 60% in order to be able to endorse. So when they did a second vote, some of the no votes, so it's either, vote for Jennifer Hawks, vote for David Serpa, or no vote, or no endorsement. And so there were 70 people who did the no endorsement. And so a few of those moved over to vote for Jennifer Hawks, and actually a few that had voted for David Serpa moved over also, because ultimately the body wanted to be able to endorse someone. And she was so very close to the 60%. They wanted to get her over the top. So she was endorsed. He was not. And you can visibly see his frustration. And I felt bad, but, need to move on. So California, you all know, has been renowned for sleazebag legislators. We have a lot of them. And I've said many times in this space, the voters' will has neither counted in our elections nor has been reflected in the votes of our legislators. It's one of the reasons that I threw myself in front of the train, literally, to run for office. I actually thought I was going to be running for Eric Swalwell's seat, since that's the district I've lived in for 27 years, the past 13 of which he's been my legislator. But literally that all changed with the recent gerrymandering of the redistricting done by Herr Newsom. So I'm running in the district next door. So I don't have any association to Swalwell anymore. Woo! But he's not new to making bad decisions and getting in the news. You all heard about between 2000 and 2015, Christine Fang, or Fong, known as Fong Fong, who supposedly befriended and assisted local politicians. She fundraised for Swalwell's 2014 campaign. She was never technically a paid staffer, but they were obviously seen in pictures with close physical contact and kissing. And Fong Fong, the little thing that's gone on there. In 2015, the FBI identified Fong as a suspected Chinese intelligence operative and warned Swalwell about concerns, but nothing was ever done about it. He was deemed to have not compromised any congressional things with her, whatever. Swalwell has served in Congress from 2013 to present. He gave up rerunning for his seat during this current election in order to run for governor. The first challenge to Swalwell's running for governor came about because California Constitution holds that any candidate for governor must have had a residence in the state for at least 5 years prior. So if you heard right, Swalwell hasn't maintained a residence in California for at least the last 8 to 10 years. Mortgage documents claim his single-family home in D.C. as his primary residence. He claimed he was renting a room in a 1,400 square foot home in Livermore. The owner, Christina Merzuska, whatever her it is, has stated under oath that she rents to Eric Swalwell. The controversy stems from the claim that she may be improperly maintaining the homeowner's exemption on a property she's allegedly renting out. There's no physical evidence that he's rented there, no canceled checks, bank statements, etc. But a California judge ruled that he took the word of the homeowner and Swalwell's intent to maintain a residence in California and allowed Swalwell to remain on the ballot. But now the woman who owns the home is being taken to court for 8 to 9 years of tax fraud. So in 2021, the next controversy, we're going one controversy to the next, okay?
All right, hold on just 1 second. I'm just laughing at the phrase, a California judge. Hey, I'm just going to take your word. I mean, the fact that there's no evidence of it, you see what I mean, folks, about judges not being, I mean, it's a joke. Our legal system is a complete joke now. All right, go ahead. I apologize for interrupting. Good grief.
No, it's okay. It's okay. There's so many, things here that you might as well just interrupt between each one because it just goes on. In 2021, a Brazilian national was hired as a live-in nanny au pair for Eric Swalwell's children. In 2022, her visa expired, but she stayed and continued working for the family. In 2024, she reportedly obtained a lawful green card to continue employment. In addition to her illegal status, ineligible to be hired for work, it's reported that $200,000 in campaign funds may have been used to pay her. As a result, Eric Swalwell and his wife and the nanny are all being investigated for crimes.
Hold on.
Recently,
you're bearing the lead again. Eric Swalwell and his wife. So let's, I need to get me one of these. What's the phrase? Befriended and assisted local politicians. I think my campaign manager would have an objection, aka my wife, to me having someone who befriended and assisted local politicians. So he's married. So let's run the toast. So we got Fang Fang. Now we've got the Swedish nanny. Is she
well,
Swedish?
You skipped the house too. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I skipped the house. Oh yeah, because why would a woman be doing something for free? So are there allegations of sexual misconduct with the homeowner?
Unknown.
Okay. All right. So we'll just leave it at 2 for now. All right. So, and I'm sorry, not a Swedish nanny, a Brazilian nanny. Okay.
Brazilian. Yeah.
All right.
And
keep
we
going.
all know about. Never mind. I won't. Okay. So now, recent allegations have been coming up from several women that include a former staffer that alleges he sexually assaulted her twice when she was intoxicated and unable to consent. 3 additional women allege inappropriate sexual conduct, including sending unsolicited explicit photos. These reports expand from 2019 through 2024. Additional inappropriate communications allegedly occurred during overlapping periods. The reported investigations that I just mentioned are occurring through Manhattan District Attorney
lost you after
for the
district
sexual
attorney.
assault investigation, as well as federal agencies. Oh, no, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Keep going. Federal agencies.
Okay. Yeah. So they're investigating the sexual assault, and then there's several federal agencies looking into additional related matters that are under review. Photos and videos have also surfaced, supposedly of Swalwell with possibly a sex worker and possibly an orgy. Multiple people involved in the photos or videos. I did not watch, will not watch, and will not speak to those. Multiple senior campaign staff resigned shortly after the allegations surfaced. The campaign chair stepped down, several campaign staffers resigned, and public endorsements were withdrawn within roughly 24 hours. He lost most major endorsements. Organizations and political leaders withdrew immediately, including Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, and the California Teachers Association. End of the story is Swalwell leaves a trail of mess behind him wherever he goes. He suspended his campaign for governor effective yesterday and stated he would address the allegations personally. He denied any wrongdoing, but said the allegations were false and continuing the campaign would be a distraction. There have been bipartisan calls for Swalwell's resignation or expulsion from his current seat in Congress, effective immediately. His term otherwise ends in January of coming up 2027, and he missed the March 6th filing deadline to run and retain his current seat because you can't run for 2 offices consecutively. So his political career is over for now, and now 3 women in his life are being investigated for crimes. The woman he claimed to rent a room from in California, his nanny, and his wife. There you go. Avoid Swalwell.
Wow. Now, I saw something about, a bipartisan call to eliminate 4 of them. And let's be honest, folks, Swalwell is, the poster child right now. But, if anybody thinks that Lady Lindsay is not involved in a similar type of thing, there are rumors about John Cornyn and a male staffer. There's rumors about Mike Pence and a male prostitute that came out over the weekend. Again, this is as old as the day is long. I will say that we have a muckraking journalist here in Texas that deals with these type of things. That's like his whole bailiwick is to catch men that are cheating on their wives or wives that are cheating on their men. He does have a curious blind spot when it comes to the guy I ran against. Now, but it's good to see that the truth is starting to come out. Now, over the weekend, my pastor actually said, the truth will set you free, but it might be painful. So again, this might be a little painful because there are Republicans that are doing the exact same thing. But, I think when there's this level of illegality, you just got to, you got to get rid of them. Now, I'm laughing because a former Speaker of the Texas House, Dade Phelan, he actually posted on X after Swalwell made his resignation announcement. He said, "Not good enough, resign and take the others with you." I'm laughing because the guy I ran against is one of his acolytes. And there are at least 3 women, if not 4, that have the same. He's got a Swalwell problem, the guy I ran against. I like saying that. All right. Again, I'm going to leave it at that for right now. But this is, I think, a tale as old as time. What is it? Money and power. If as a guy, you got to have one if women want to be attracted to you. I think it's a joke. I don't like it. I think, but is that true? All right. So Southern, what do you think should happen to Mr. Swalwell?
Well, if he's not going to resign, he should be expelled immediately.
I agree.
That's where I stand on it. Don't be dirty.
If we kicked out our congressman in New York that was guilty of misconduct, why can't we kick him out? Seems we never kick these Democrats out. And again, what I'm hearing is they don't want him kicked out. Jeffries basically said he's not good enough to run for governor, but we can leave him in the House. Again, I'm just sick of all of that. All right. I'm pretty much, Nick, I'm in the wrap-up phase getting ready. Dr. A, anything you want to, any rumors about your opponent doing anything like that?
Not specifically, although she has written letters to the Central Committee begging them to co-endorse or endorse both of us because, she deserves it and all that. So, yeah, they're doing their thing behind the scenes, and I still get attacked on X and Facebook from her minions who want to say that I'm a nobody who's done nothing and just likes to party all the time. And I don't care about people. There you go. All of which are not true. Well, I'm okay being a nobody because I think nobodies are the people that are supposed to be the ones going to Washington, D.C., and that's the people that I want to represent. So I'm good with being a nobody, especially a nobody who hasn't lost 3 races already. And I've done nothing but care about people all my life, almost to a fault. So, okay, I'll leave it there.
All right, Tap, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Real quick on the Swalwell thing. This dude is being alleged that he cheated on his wife, basically, that he sexually assaulted staffers, and he's not going to run for governor. Good, but he should also resign from his current position as a representative in the federal House. At the same time, because I say that of the opposing party, in my opinion, a representative from my own state of Texas and the neighboring city, Tony Gonzalez, should also immediately resign from his position.
Absolutely.
Because he also sexually assaulted staffers and is still serving at least until January 3rd of next year. And so I have to be consistent. So both Swalwell and Gonzalez should resign immediately. It is not proper for them to finish out their terms. I'm sure the people of those districts, which I don't reside in, are not comfortable with being represented by those that sexually assault women or anyone.
Right there with you, brother. Amen. And for those of you that don't know, Gonzalez's woman that he assaulted lit herself on fire and killed herself. So, again, I don't understand why criminal charges aren't being investigated as well, and maybe they are, but I doubt it given our DOJ. All right, folks, I've talked a lot about culture and about things that are important, that we need to reestablish Christian culture in this country. That will heal this nation more than anything else. Last week, I went and saw a movie called A Great Awakening, and I'm encouraging you to go see it at the theaters. And my reason for that is I actually want to reward movie studios that take a chance on making culturally edifying movies. This was a great movie about an English minister, George Whitfield, an Anglican church minister, that came to the United States and preached the gospel up and down the country. All right. He was a good man, and his preaching, along with 3 or 4 others, led to the Great Awakening, which preceded our liberation. When I say our liberation, I mean our liberation from the British. Again, I talk all the time about freedom, and I had a conversation with my other fellow J6ers. We used to meet when we were in the gulag every day at 6 o'clock and just talk. And we called it J6 at 6. And yesterday we were talking about freedom and how precious it is now to us, having actually lost it. All right, I'm reminded that the freedom that we fought for in 1776 is only a generation away from being lost. But that's not the freedom I'm talking about right now. All right, I often wonder, how radical it was for them to be hearing, his disciples, to be hearing from the Messiah, I am not here to free you from the Romans. How would we react in that situation? He came to free us from sin, and you are ultimately free from that because of him. So I want to quote George Whitefield. The Christian world is in a deep sleep, and nothing but a loud shout can awaken them out of it. Okay, I don't get to shout like this all the time, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you do not vote to preserve your values, your Christian values at the local level, at the state level, and the national level, it will be taken from you. Sleepers, awaken. Fight for your faith, fight for your state, and fight for your nation. Fight, fight, fight. That's all I've got for the day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. God bless each and every one of you. Carry the battle to the enemy in any way possible.